The Jacksonville Jaguars are easily the best team in the AFC South that the Texans have to face. The Colts, they're a mess. The Titans, but the Jaguars, they're a legit team. Now, they do have Blake Bortles, so the Jaguars can realistically be beat any week. Anyways, let's get into these matchups. Let's start off with the Jaguars run game versus the Texans run defense. Now, if you guys know, last year, week 1, Leonard Fournette came in, his first game ever, and just embarrassed the Texans defense. He was just too physical for them. The Texans just weren't expecting that. But next season, or this upcoming season, I don't see that happening again because the Texans are going to be more prepared for that running style. However, the Jaguars did add Andrew Norwell, one of the best guards in the league in free agency. And of course they got Brandon Linder, one of the better centers in the league. And Cam Robinson should be improving next season. The right side of their line is a little bit iffy. Their left side, starting from the center all the way to the left, should be pretty damn good. Now the Texans' run defense, even last year with terrible Mike Vrabel, even with all the injuries, the Texans' run defense pretty much never lost a step. Now you get J.J. Watt back. You get Merciless back. You got DJ Reader coming back as well. Christian Covington. You already got Bernardrick McKinney, a dominant run stopper. Add in Zach Cunningham, who can play sideline to sideline. The Texans should have a really good run defense as well. So, I see this matchup being even. I don't think the Jaguars are going to run all over the Texans, but I also don't see the Texans shutting down the Jaguars' run game. So, again, I see this being a pretty even matchup. I'm not going to give either team the edge. This one can honestly go either way. I mean, you might have Leonard Fournette bust out for 20 yards on one run, but then you'll see the Texans stop him like the next 5 or 6 attempts. You know, like stuff like that. Now let's move on to the Jaguars passing attack versus the Texans secondary. Now the Jaguars passing attack features Blake Bortles. So, I mean, yeah. Anyways, though, the Texans pass rush versus the Jaguars O-line, I can definitely see the Texans getting some pressure from the outside, Jadeveon Clowney and Whitney Merciless. See it being kind of difficult getting pressure from the inside, especially now that they added Andrew Norwell in addition to already having Brandon Linder. So I do think the Texans have a slight edge when it comes to putting the pressure on their quarterback. And then you also consider that the Jaguars have no receivers. I mean, their best wide receiver is Marquise Lee. Marquise Lee is a pretty good slot receiver, but that's about as far as it goes. Everyone else is a question mark. I mean, Dante Moncrief, who they picked up, he's a terrible wide receiver. He is not good. You could even ask the Colts fans. They wanted him gone. They also have DJ Chark, who is a rookie, so I don't really know how good he's going to do. If it were up to me, he'd probably be my number 1 receiver. And they also have D.D. Westbrook and Keelan Cole, who did pretty decent last year, but again, I don't see these guys being anything special. Like, they're just average to above average by themselves. And then you add in Blake Bortles. Yeah, I'm not really too comfortable with the Jaguars receiving core. I'd say the receiver out of theirs that I'm more comfortable with is actually their tight end, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. the guy has all the potential in the world, but he hasn't really lived up to it. But with a quarterback like Blake Bortles, who pretty much you have to get the ball out of his hands quick before he starts making bad decisions, I could see Austin Seferian-Jenkins being dangerous with his speed, his size. He's just an all-around balanced player. So, how will these Jaguars receivers do against the Texans DBs or pass defense? Well, the Texans have some pretty good coverage backers and Dylan Cole and Zach Cunningham, so I could see the matchup between Seferian-Jenkins and the linebackers slash safeties being pretty even. Now, the actual DBs, yes, I understand the Texans had a bad secondary last year, but they got 3 out of 5 new starters, and all 3 of them are instant upgrades. Aaron Colvin, who was a former Jaguar, I don't know if he's going to play outside or inside, but he's an instant upgrade over what the Texans had last year. Tyrann Mathieu, he's probably the best safety in Texans history. If you add in Justin Reed, who was the 3rd best safety in the draft, that the Texans drafted in the 3rd round, this is the best group of safeties the Texans have ever had. And if you look at last year, more often than not, I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, when the Texans got burnt deep, it was because the safeties were out of position. Safeties were lost last year. Was it because the safeties were bad, or was it because Mike Vrabel was not a good defensive coordinator? It's probably a combination of both. So now the Texans got 3 out of 5 new DBs, and I can easily see them limiting these Jaguars receivers, especially when you consider that Blake Bortles is the quarterback. So I'm going to give the edge to the Texans in terms of defending the pass. Now let's move on to the Texans offense versus the Jaguars defense. Let's start off with the run game. Lamar Miller and the Texans O-line versus the Jaguars front 7. I mean, I'm going to call it how it is. The Jaguars easily win that matchup. Yes, we did get 2 new guards that should be huge improvements, but against Malik Jackson, against Marcel Darius, Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, Dante Fowler, Miles Jack, Telvin Smith. Yeah, I like the interior of our offensive line, but this Jaguars front is too good. And I don't think Lamar Miller is the type of running back who can create space on his own, if that makes sense. So I'll definitely give the edge to the Jaguars in terms of stopping the Texans' rushing attack. Now let's move on to the Texans' passing attack versus the Jaguars' pass defense. And again, it starts up front. Texans' offensive line against those guys. Pass rush wise, I'll give it to the Jaguars again because the Texans have complete question marks at both tackle spots. Again, I'll say it again. Interior of the line, I'm fine with. I think we'll be above average. But the tackles, those are complete question marks. So the Jaguars, again, clearly get the edge there. But now let's move on to the Texans' receiving weapons versus the Jaguars' DBs slash linebackers. Let's start off with the tight ends. Texans don't have a tight end. And even if they did, the Jaguars' safeties and linebackers will do a pretty good job of limiting them. So I'll give the edge to the Jaguars there in terms of our tight ends versus their linebackers slash safeties, or whoever's supposed to be covering the tight end. But now let's talk about the actual receivers versus the DBs. DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Kiki Coutee slash Bruce Ellington versus Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye. Aaron Colvin is gone, so the Jaguars no longer have a nickel corner. DeAndre Hopkins, we saw it last year. Don't matter what DB he's playing up against. No matter what corner. Richard Sherman, Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Peterson, Jimmy Smith. Last season, DeAndre Hopkins tore up every single corner in the league. So DeAndre Hopkins can beat Jalen Ramsey. He's done so many times before already. So it's going to be an even matchup between DeAndre and Jalen. Boye, yeah, not so much. I wouldn't really trust them on DeAndre Hopkins because that first game they played against each other, Boye got like 4 or 5 holding calls, so you don't really want that. So now we're going to put Will Fuller on AJ Boye then. Fuller, I'd say, can easily burn Boye one-on-one, but with the safeties helping out, I see it being kind of difficult for Will Fuller to take the top off the Jaguars defense. So Will Fuller's probably going to have to run shorter routes, and in those situations I'd see Boye kind of being able to limit Will Fuller, probably even shut him down. So it's pretty much going to be DeAndre Hopkins versus Jalen Ramsey, and the Texans hoping that our slot receiver, whether it's Coty or Ellington, better hope that he gets something going against the Jaguars nickel corner, who at this point is pretty much a no one. So in this situation, I'm going to have to call it even. I see the Jaguars being able to limit Fuller. I see Hopkins having an even matchup with Ramsey. Maybe the Jaguars get the edge because of the pass rush, but you also have to consider other things like Watson's mobility, but that's just getting into like schemes and stuff, and it is just a personnel standpoint, from a personnel perspective. Anyways, I see this matchup being a really good one. Both of these games are going to be complete dogfights. They're going to be close games unless the Week 17 game someone's clinched or both teams are clinched already in the playoffs. I don't see them playing the starters. So the first game, that's going to be a really, really good game. I can't wait to see that. It's going to be kind of fun to see this rivalry for the next few years, because everyone else in the AFC South, I don't see them doing anything. So anyways, that's all I really have for you guys today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.